Someone asked me, what's realistic income-wise if I only have 5 hours a week? Here's what I'm not going to tell you: that you can work 5 hours and make $10,000 the next month. That's not realistic, and that is not how Etsy works. But here is what happened for me. My first full month on Etsy, I made about $315, working about 10 hours a week while my kids slept. By month 3, I had made over $2,400 working those same 10 hours while my kids were sleeping. One of my sales sprint students, Tiffany, is a stay-at-home mom of 3 and made her first sale in just 5 days. Another student, Lauren, made 8 sales in one morning while home with a sick kid. Now, did they make thousands of dollars immediately? No, but they made progress with very limited time because they were focused on the right things from the beginning. We didn't work more hours, we worked on different things. And today I'm going to show you exactly what those things are. Now, when someone asks, how much can I make with 5 hours a week? They're usually assuming more hours equals more money, but that's how jobs work. You work 40 hours, you get paid for 40 hours. But Etsy doesn't work that way, and that's where people get stuck. I made over $28,000 on Etsy working while my kids sleep. Sometimes that's 10 hours a week, sometimes that's 0 hours a week. And I've still been able to outsell 97% of Etsy sellers according to eRank. So the difference isn't hours, it's leverage. Okay, so let me show you something that completely changed how I think about making money on Etsy. I call it the leverage ladder, and there are 3 rungs. Now, the bottom rung is the time trader. This is what happens when you bring the time equals money mindset from your day job into your Etsy shop. You list your first product, and then you're checking your stats every 30 minutes waiting for your first sale. Day 2, no sales, you're frustrated. Day 5, still nothing, you're discouraged. By week 2, you're thinking, I put in 80 hours and made $0. This obviously doesn't work. But that's because you're expecting Etsy to work like a paycheck. You show up, put in the time, you get paid. Except Etsy doesn't pay you for just showing up. It pays you for creating things people are actively searching for and actively buying. When you are stuck in employee thinking, every hour without a sale feels like wasted time. And that's when people quit, usually right before their listings would have gained traction and started taking off. Now we move to the middle rung, which I call the busybody. And this is where I see a lot of Etsy sellers get stuck. You're working on your business, which feels productive, but you're not focused on money-making tasks. You're updating your shop banner 20 times. You're changing your listings over and over. You're constantly creating new products thinking that more products equals more sales. And you are being efficient, right? You're getting a lot of stuff done, but you're being efficient at things that don't make money. You're busy, but you're not building leverage. Then we have the top rung, which is what I call the sleep seller. And this is where everything shifts. You start creating products that make you money while you sleep, like my student Sarah. You're not trading time for dollars anymore. You're creating assets that work for you. Let me give you a real example from my shop. I created an ADHD cleaning bundle. It took maybe 20 hours to design it in Canva, and then maybe another 20 hours to figure out how to make it fillable. So we can say that was about 40 hours of work. That one product has now made me over $13,000 on Etsy alone. I basically got paid $325 an hour to create that product. And that's because I built it one time with leverage in mind. I optimized for Etsy search. I solved a real problem people were actively looking for. And that product keeps making money year after year without me touching it. That is leverage, and that's where you need to be. Here's the reality. If you only have 5 hours a week, you cannot afford to be on the bottom 2 rungs. You don't have time to waste being busy or trading time for dollars. You need to skip straight to the top rung and think about leverage from day 1. And the great thing is, it doesn't actually take more time to build with leverage. It just takes doing different things with the time you have. And to do that, you need to know about the 80-20 filter. Now, this is going to save you so much time and frustration. It's called the Pareto principle, and it basically says that 20% of your actions will create 80% of your results. That could also mean 80% of your activities are only making about 20% of your income. And when you only have 5 hours a week, you literally can't afford to spend time on those 80% 80% of activities. So let me tell you what the 20% of activities are that will put money into your bank account. The first activity is finding products people are already searching for. Not products you think are cute or products you think people would like. Products that people are typing into the Etsy search bar right now looking to buy. The second action is making listing photos that stop the scroll. Because even if your product shows up in search results, if your main photo looks like everyone else's, people are going to keep scrolling. And the third action is writing titles and tags that match exactly what people are typing into the Etsy search bar. This is how Etsy knows what your product is so they can show it to the right people. That is it. Those three things. That's the 20% that's going to make 80% of your income. Now, here are the activities that fall into the 80%. And I'm telling you because I've seen people spend hours on this stuff, including me in the beginning. There are things like designing the perfect logo, rewriting your shop announcement for the 5th time, reorganizing your shop sections, updating your About Me page with your life story. And listen, none of that is bad. It's just not what makes sales. So if you're sitting here thinking, I only have 5 hours, is that enough? Yes, it's enough, but only if you are ruthless about cutting those 80% of activities that aren't going to make the majority of your income. Okay, so let's talk about what's actually realistic with 5 hours a week, because I want to set proper expectations here. So let me break down the 3 phases you may go through. Phase 1 is the build phase. That's your first 0 to 6 months. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You are going to probably make little to no money during this phase. You're creating your first products. You're learning how Etsy SEO or search engine optimization actually works. You're figuring out which listing photos convert into sales. This is the phase where you might get your first few sales and you might not. My first sale took 9 days after I listed my product. And let me tell you, those 9 days felt like 9 years. Now, some of my students made their first sale in 2 weeks. Some made their first sale in 2 months. And that waiting period does feel like forever. And this is where I see a lot of people quit because they think it's not working. But really, this is just the foundation phase. Now, phase 2 is the growth phase. That's going to be month 6 through 18. And this is where money can start coming in. But here's the thing. It might be very inconsistent. You might have a week where you made $200 and you're like, yes, I finally figured it out. And then the next week you make $50 and you're like, hold on. What just happened? But that is completely normal during this phase. It's actually not a problem. It is still progress. Your systems are starting to work. Etsy is learning who to show your products to. You're getting reviews. You're getting repeat customers. It's just not consistent yet. And then we move into phase 3, which is the scale phase. And this is going to be month 18 and beyond. Now, this is where things are going to start getting really exciting. This is where 5 hours a week can make you a full-time income or more. Your products are ranking in Etsy search. Etsy is promoting the listings for you. And you're not creating new products constantly. You're optimizing what's already working. You're adjusting prices, testing new photos, maybe adding variations of bestsellers. Now, here's something important. If you had 40 hours a week instead of 5, could you shorten this process a bit? Maybe. You might get through phase 1 a bit faster. But here's what won't happen. You won't make 4 times more money just because you're putting in 4 times more hours. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how many hours you're putting in. It's about the systems you're building during those hours. And those systems are going to take time to work, whether you're working 5 hours a week or 50 hours a week. So now let me tell you what really drove this whole concept home for me. A while back, I decided I want to try something new, so I started a Shopify store. And I went all in on this Shopify store. I was making TikTok videos every single day. I was posting on my Instagram stories. I had a YouTube channel going. I was creating content constantly, driving traffic, doing all the things you're supposed to do. Now, I still had my Etsy shop, but I literally wasn't touching it. I'm talking 0 hours. I wasn't creating new products. I wasn't updating listings. I wasn't doing anything. So let me tell you what happened that month. My Shopify store, where I was working my butt off, hosting daily, being super active, made $200 in revenue. But after paying the monthly payment for Shopify and all of the apps that the gurus were telling me I needed to make more money, I ended up taking home about $50. Now, my Etsy shop, where I did absolutely nothing, made over $800 in revenue, and I got to keep about $672 of that after fees. I got deposited 13 times more money from Etsy with 0 hours of work. Now, why did that happen? It's not because Shopify is bad or Etsy is magic. It's because of the systems I had built on Etsy. My products were optimized for Etsy search, which meant people were finding my products whenever they would search for what I had created. So when people saw my products in search results, they clicked and they bought. And Etsy's algorithm was promoting my products for me because they had good conversion rates and reviews. The system I had built on Etsy kept working for me, even when I wasn't there, and that's because of leverage. That's the goal when you only have 5 hours a week. You're not creating an income stream that requires you to show up every single day. You're creating a system that works for you even when you're not working. So here's the question you need to ask yourself every single week. What can I create this week that will make me money next month without me touching it? That's your North Star. That's what you're aiming for with every product you create, every listing you optimize, every photo you design. You are building assets that compound over time, not tasks that you have to repeat over and over. And this might just be the most important thing when you're just starting out. So here's what I see happen all the time. Someone lists their first product, no sales. They list their second product, no sales. By product number 10, they're thinking, okay, clearly I'm doing something wrong. This doesn't work for me. I might as well quit and try something else. So I'm a homeschooling mom, right? So I teach my kids about science. And one of the first things you learn in science is that your experiments are going to fail most of the time. That's literally how science works. A scientist doesn't run one experiment, get a result they didn't expect, and go, well, I guess I'm a failure. Science just doesn't work for me. That is literally not what they do. They look at the data, they adjust the variables, and they try again. That's the entire process. And that's exactly how Etsy works too. Most of your products aren't going to be big winners. A handful of your products are going to make the majority of your income, and that is completely normal. In my shop right now, I have products that have made me thousands of dollars, and I also have products that have only made me $12. Both exist in the same shop, but that doesn't mean the product that only made $12 was a failure. It just means it wasn't a big hit. So when a product doesn't sell, that doesn't mean you're failing. You're getting data and you're learning something new. If you're not getting any views, that is telling you your SEO or search engine optimization needs work. And I'm not talking about you listed a product yesterday and it hasn't gotten views yet. I'm saying if you listed a product more than 30 days ago and it has 0 views, then let's update your SEO. People can't find your product because you're not using the words they are typing into the Etsy search bar. Now, if you're getting views but no sales, that's telling you something is off with either your listing photos or your pricing. People are finding you, maybe they're clicking, but something is not convincing them to buy. Now, if nothing's working at all, maybe you're in the wrong niche. Test a different product type or just try something else. It's all just data telling you what to adjust next. Your first few products probably won't sell, or at least not well, but your 10th product might start getting some traction. And your 15th product might be the one that makes you thousands of dollars. But here's the catch. You only get to product 15 if you don't quit at product 3. So if you take nothing else from this video, take this. There is no such thing as failure on Etsy. There's only data. And every product that doesn't sell is just teaching you what will sell. So yes, you can absolutely make money with 5 hours a week on Etsy. But here's what you need to do. 1, climb to the top rung of that leverage ladder. 2, focus ruthlessly on the 20% of activities that make the most money. 3, have realistic expectations of the timeline. 4, build systems that work without you. And 5, treat every failure as data, not a dead end. The people who fail get stuck on the bottom 2 rungs of the ladder, working on the wrong 80% and expecting instant results. They're rebuilding everything constantly, and then they quit at the first sign of a struggle. You have 5 hours. That's enough. But every single one of those hours has to count. That's why I created the sales sprint. I literally walk you through how to spend those 5 hours. How to find digital products people actually want to buy. How to get your listings to show up when people search for them on Etsy. How to build this entire thing so it's making money for you even when you're not working. And I've dropped the link in the description if you want to know exactly how to make your 5 hours count. So let me know in the comments, what's one high leverage activity you're gonna focus on this week? And if you're feeling overwhelmed about if you'll actually succeed when so many others have failed, make sure you go watch this video next. I go over the 5 hard truths that cause many Etsy sellers to quit way too early. And these are things not a lot of people talk about, but could save you so much frustration. Knowing these truths can completely change your approach to Etsy.